Hey, I'm Nelson. Today I have a 10-minute yoga class that's really going to challenge your balance. I had the idea for these classes after I learned about the positive correlation between balance training and increased neuroplasticity. Before we get into it, let's take a moment just to center ourselves and get connected to our breath. I'm sitting in a Vajrasana. You can sit in this position too, heels underneath butt. If this is uncomfortable, feel free to sit into a Sukhasana or easy seat, legs crossed in front of you. Either way, let's take a moment to close our eyes and become aware of the present moment. I want you just to be aware of your breath here. There's no need to change it in any way. Just notice your inhalation and your exhalations. A large part of balancing is really just being present in the moment. It's kind of impossible to balance when your mind is thinking about a million different things. Your body is freaking out and wants to move. So really becoming aware of the sensations in your body and the fluctuations of your mind will really, really help you when it comes to balancing, not just in a yoga pose, but in all parts of life. On our next inhale, let's open our eyes. We'll place our hands down, knees on our hips, hands beneath shoulders. First, I want you to think about gripping the mat with your fingertips, feeling the base knuckles grounding into the ground and the heels of your palms touching the ground as well. You want to think about magnetizing your forearms together to really turn on your pecs and slightly protracting through the upper spine to get this mild cat position. From here, I want you just to make circles going all around your wrists, just gently applying some weight to them. You can maybe go 3 times one way, 3 times the other. Most of this class will be on our hands, so I really want to take a little bit of time warming them up. I did a class on balance before this where it was all standing and on our feet. We didn't do a lot of warm up because we're used to standing on our feet, but our hands, not so much. From here, just take one foot back and the other and coming up into a down dog. Still thinking about gripping the mat, squeezing your forearms in. This time, sort of spreading through the shoulder blades, rolling the biceps up towards your ears. Feeling your collarbone slightly smile open, drawing your ribs down and in, navel to spine. Adducting through the inner thighs by squeezing them together tight, slightly, and engaging your glutes ever so slightly. You think about your tailbone lifting up. You can bend your knees to pedal it out, whatever feels good here. We're going to do 3 rounds or 6 rounds total of what Josh Kramer calls perfect yogi push-ups. So from your down dog, I want you to roll into a plank, come down into a chaturanga. But instead of going into a back bend, we're going to come back into this hovering child's pose, weird bent down dog shape, and then sit back up into a down dog. We're just going to do 2 more of those, warming up our hands, our shoulders, our minds. Remember to breathe, be aware, and cool. We're just going to reverse that first, sitting into that hovering child's pose, coming into a chaturanga, up into a plank, back in a down dog. 2 more of those. Last one. Cool. I feel pretty warm, so hopefully you do too. Let's take a second off your hands, come down to your knees, and rest in the Sukhasana position. So we'll be doing a lot of arm balances, an inversion, and yeah. But before we do that, I want to really warm up our core and our hands a little bit more. So let's get into a plank position. Balls of the feet underneath the heels, hands underneath shoulders, gripping the mat, squeezing the forearms in, protracting through the upper back. Ribs and navel in, glutes slightly engaged. I want you to come up onto the ball of your left foot, pointing your right toes, lifting it off the mat. Slowly, gracefully come up to your fingertips with the left hand. And if it's possible, come into that one leg, one arm plank position. It's sort of difficult. Cool, and put your hand and then foot down. We're going to go to the other side. So pointing the left toes a few inches off the ground, pushing into the left hand, coming up to your right fingertips, and eventually taking your right hand off the mat into this 2-point plank pose. Whew, cool. And after that, come back to a down dog just for a second, pedal your legs. From here, I want you to do the same 2-point plank position. Coming up, pointing the right toes, lifting the left hand. But this time I want you to slowly, mindfully bring your right knee to your chest, and as slowly as you can, step it forward. We'll take a second here, coming up into a Ajnasana, giving some rest to our hands, catching our breath. Feels pretty good. And coming back down. And just to the other side. Left toes pointed behind us, right fingertips, right hand lifted. And as slowly as we can, left knee to chest. Flex our left foot and step it forward. Coming to an Ajnasana. Whew. Nice. From here, place both hands down, come to your knees again. This time I want you to come into a garland pose. So bring your toes together, knees apart. We're just going to rest our head and hands out. It's a nice relaxing stretch. It's also preparing us for our next shape, which is a crow or crane. Remembering to breathe, be present. So you should be basically in the middle of your mat here. Come to the balls of your toes, placing your hands in front of you, your kneecaps on the backs of your arms, either the triceps or up into the armpits, wherever you can get them. We're just gonna lift our butts up, gripping the mat with our fingertips, getting into a position where we can lift one leg, maybe two, hugging in through the midline, straightening the arms as much as possible, and coming back down. Nice. So give your hands a break for a second. Cool. We're going to do this one more time. Coming to our crow or crane. But this time, instead of dropping back to our feet, our intention is to drive ourselves forward slowly, mindfully, coming onto the crown of our head. Basically, we'll be transitioning into a tripod headstand. If this is your first time doing a headstand, maybe watch first and then try it. Otherwise, let's get back into our crow crane position. Leaning, squeezing, hugging in, and mindfully coming down, tucking your chin towards her chest. I'm having trouble here. Cool. But once you're in this pose, you can keep your knees planted on your triceps, feeling the weight down to the center of the crown of your head. You can slowly come up into a inversion here, the headstand. You can make shapes, Do whatever you like. I'm just gonna hang out here. Coming back down slowly to our hands and then to our feet. Whew, that was hard. I hope you're still there with me. We're almost done. But before we end, let's do one more balancing on our hands. I know my hands are getting kind of fatigued, so I'm sure yours are too. We'll just take a second to give them some love, stretch them. Cool. So from here, let's go back into that tripod headstand. This time from our knees and not from crane position. So placing our hands down, fingers turned slightly out, gives you more room in your shoulders, makes the pose a little bit easier. Gripping the mat, again, coming onto the crown of our head. Make sure you're not on your forehead or the back of your head. Your neck wants to be nice and neutral. This pose should be comfortable, not painful, maybe scary at times, but mostly challenging and fun. Bring your knees off the ground. You can walk one knee to the tricep, balancing, the other knee to the tricep, balancing. You can hop up into your headstand. Bring your legs up. We're going to squeeze through the midline, squeezing your butt, flexing your toes, and then maybe come back down. Knees down, head up. We did it. That was a challenging class, but I hope you got something out of it. Before we end, let's show our arms and forearms some love. I want you to put your right forearm in between your calf and hamstring, coming up and applying some pressure to it. This is a nice little compression for the arm. You can move your fingers, stretch your hands out. Feels really nice. And on the left side, same thing. That feels good. And cool. Thanks for joining me. Feel free to follow if you like this kind of stuff. I'll be doing more yoga-inspired movement exercises with practical purposes. So I'll see you soon. Bye.